Hello, I'm Chris and this is my Holley part 4 video. In this video we're going to rebuild my 3310. I took this one apart in part 3. Pay attention to that because the 3310-2 through 11 is a different carburetor. So this is a 4150 series. We're going to do some unboxing on some new parts and put them on, and we're going to unbox the trick kit. We're going to use this to build this carburetor and see exactly what it comes with. So if you have a 3310, you need to make 100% sure that you either had a manual choke or one of these chokes, like a heat choke or heat riser tube. So we look at this choke piece. It's got a hole right there that's going to get vacuum to suck the air through it. And it's got a little coil in there, and then when it heats up with that air off the exhaust manifolds, it's going to eventually open the coil as the engine warms up. I'm not 100% sure where the tubes were or how this was plumbed up on there, but all I do know is it has this little port right here that uses engine vacuum to suck air through this choke. So if we come on here, this is where that's connected to. You can push this right through. You can see it right there. This is going straight to manifold vacuum. So if you had one of these chokes on there, maybe you don't know, and you took it off, you got a freaking vacuum leak right here that's going to screw up everything. Your car's never going to run right. So we got to block that off. So I'm not going to run a choke on this one, but I have to stick this piece back on just for now. I noticed that looks like a block off gasket that we're going to use to just block that port off so that we don't have a vacuum leak. This one, we're just going to cap it off. Another video I made a reference to this being zinc dichromate. This is not zinc dichromate. This is gold erudite. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but that's what the color of this carburetor is. This is zinc dichromate. So I guess it kind of looks the same. But I'm just bringing that up because in case somebody knows, how do you get that finish to look, 100% perfect again? I know about the spray paints. I don't want to paint this carburetor. Please, if somebody knows how to get this thing back to normal, because it's got a lot of like discoloration. It'd be great if I could just make it all look one shade of this. Okay, so this base plate was replaced. It's an aftermarket one. It says Elkton on it, so I'm real happy about that. Just make sure if they replace it, they replaced it with the right one. So 172s are the correct numbers, and I'm happy. I like that. And always check for that throttle to be loose. It's new, so it's perfect. So remember to check that throttle linkage so it's not bent. Everything looks perfect on this one. And the accelerator pump cam is right there. We're not going to mess with it because we're trying to rebuild this carburetor back to the factory specs on it. So it's in the #1 position, and we're just going to leave it alone. Okay, so we're going to start on this diaphragm housing. We're going to add the quick change kit, put a new diaphragm, and see if this is easy to do or hard to do. So this new diaphragm just looks totally different. Okay, so it comes with a whole bunch of instructions. If we can't figure it out, we'll look at them. Okay, so I got all this from the Holley website. This was like around $11. This was around $20. And I'm going to get the spring kit later, but you can buy it all with the spring kit. But for right now, I'm just going to use the factory spring that was in it. We got our housing. Remember to put the check ball in the check ball hole. Like that. Get the diaphragm. Only goes in there one way. Okay, so we're just looking down on it, making sure the diaphragm is not in the way of the screw holes. That looks good. Okay, so this piece only goes on there one way. We're going to look at it from the top, line the holes up, and just drop this down straight like a hamburger. Hold it while you get the screws started. Now on the instructions it says you can put some Vaseline on here in case they come in contact with that diaphragm, but you don't really need to do that. If we were doing this under the hood of a car, yes, we would definitely put some Vaseline on those screws. Okay, so we're going to get these two snug first, still holding it down. Okay, so you see how we put the screws on? The carburetor's right here, and it covers this screw on the car, so you have to put them on there like that. It's going to use one of these O-ring gaskets. So on this one, the spring can actually snap into the cover, just like that. Just make sure it's seated in the diaphragm the right way. Just come down with it like a hamburger. Okay, so we're just snugging them up. Be careful, don't go too tight on these. So it comes with the little screws for the manual choke. Let's just put them on there so we don't lose them. So it's got the gasket, that's awesome. And then comes with 2 extra O-rings. That's great. We're gonna save these. So let's open up this trick kit and see exactly what it comes with. It's a big old heavy box. It was like $130. Okay, so that's pretty cool. It actually does have a D on there. You can barely see it. Okay, so that's cool to identify the old needle and seats. This one has a D. I'm already learning something from this trick kit. It comes with just a whole bunch of gaskets like this. Okay, so it comes with a whole bunch of stuff that you can read. I'm very pleased and excited about this. Okay, so I like this kit because obviously it just comes with a whole bunch of stuff just to get your foot in the door, to start tweaking little things and trying to make improvements. But the truth is that if you're going to get into tuning your Holley, you're going to have to invest in a wideband O2 sensor. I'm getting into tuning the right way. We're going to have a video putting this on my car. Summit Racing had this on sale for like $230. It's the cheapest wideband I could find. Do not get a narrow band. You must get a wideband if you're going to be tuning these Holley carburetors. Okay, so right off the bat you can see the factory style needle and seats, and then you can see these other ones that come with that are just kind of huge, allow more fuel in there. So that's interesting. Got us some little springs for our vacuum secondary, which is cool. Let's see how they feel. Okay, that's a strong one. Okay. Got a bunch of accelerator pump cams. Got the 50cc diaphragms, 30cc diaphragms. I thought it was going to have more power valves in it. It comes with two 6.5s. This is kind of a problem for me. I'm going to have to buy some more power valves, but that's okay. So I really like the fact that it comes with a whole bunch of these discharge nozzles. Okay, so I'm pleased with the kit on how much it actually comes with. I'm going to read these until I memorize them. Okay, so the trick kit's going to have a whole bunch of them, so you're going to really have to take your time and figure this out. Since this is not the real one, we're just going to go off of the body. So on this aftermarket base plate, there's no dowel pins in it, so the gasket just wants to go anywhere, so I'm going to have to use these screws to hold it in place. So gasket looks fine. On these Holleys, you definitely want the screws down the center of the carburetor for sure, because they have holes that go to the little chamber for the power valves. So make sure you have all the screws in there if you can, but at least the four corners and down the center of the carburetor. I said I was going to get the torque wrench out, but I'm not. But whenever you're tightening stuff like this down, you got an aluminum plate. You got to be careful the way you do it. You just want to kind of snug it up in steps. So this is his first step, just going over it, just lightly snugging them. And then our second, we'll just go a little bit more until they all just feel the same amount. And if you don't have experience doing this, get you the little inch-pound torque wrench and look up the numbers. And just keep going over and over them, because some of them will start loosening up as you tighten other ones down. Okay, so the chamber for our power valve, why it's so important you have the screws down the middle for sure. These two could possibly be left out, but we had them all, so we used them all. Okay, so we got our little vacuum housing ready. Let's go ahead and stick it on there with the new gasket. Okay, so let's test the brand new one. Push it down real slow. Pull it, it'll feel locked. So it's holding vacuum, it's brand new, of course it works. All right, so the gasket's in there. Let's try to get this thing on here. You gotta lay it on the side like that, because that gasket's gonna fall out when you're trying to tighten it. I couldn't even imagine trying to put this on a car under the hood. Remember, get the little rod back on there and the little clip. So remember our little heat riser choke, we need to plug that off so we don't have a vacuum leak. Doesn't go in, goes all the way in. Just make 100% sure so you don't waste your time on the wrong hole. So we have that little gasket in there plugging that vacuum hole off. Okay, so you don't have to do anything to this one, but we are going to plug this tube off. So we have to use this housing to block it off, but we are not going to run any choke on this carburetor. So I opened up all the gaskets, and I cannot find this gasket right here for the discharge nozzle. The only thing I can think of is that it's telling you to use site plug gaskets too, so let's see if that works. Okay, so the needle valve for the discharge nozzle, make sure that goes in there like that. Okay, one little gasket there. This only goes in one direction, it's been cleaned out really good. See if those site plug gaskets work. Okay, you see what happened when we tighten that site plug gasket down? So those work. Tighten this down pretty good since we're using new gaskets. So let's talk about something that's interesting and different on the 3310. It's the power valves. So I looked up the factory power valves and it had 12 and a 13 on there, but that doesn't add up. You can see that all the 3310-2s through 11s use a 6.5. So when I looked it up, I found out that they use a primary 10.5 and an 8.5 for the secondary. So we're gonna have to order some for this carburetor. So that's very interesting that they use a 10.5 inch vacuum power valve for the primaries and 8.5 for the secondaries. In other words, this is going to open up real fast and stay open for a long time when that vacuum drops. You know, and I don't know enough yet to know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Okay, so I'm going to put the 10.5 and 8.5 in this carburetor when I put it on my car, but for right now we're just going to put the 6.5s in there just for the video. These are the old power valves. They don't feel right. They feel stuck and clicking. That just does not feel right unless that's what a 10.5 feels like, a real super hard spring on there. So I'm not going to use these. They do look kind of all warped in there. I'm going to buy a tester and test them before I throw them away though. These did not have any numbers on them at all, so I'm just going to put 10.5 question mark because I don't know. So these only have like 2 little openings on them and these have 4, so that's going to flow a lot more and quicker. So I guess when I buy my new power valves, I'm going to make sure that they have more openings on them like that, because that's just restricting the fuel. Definitely want to put that in there for sure. So we're going to put the gaskets on them, and this has to be seated correctly. You're going to put these on upside down where you can see them spin. We're not trying to murder the gasket, just make these pretty tight though. So I was missing a float and I had to buy a new one. Got these on the HOLLEY website for the same price. You can pretty much get them anywhere else. So I had to get the little float hanger kit too because I was missing everything. To make them easier, just get this pin started in here first. Like that. Grab the spring. Get it in the hole. Through the pin. Get the pin through it. Get all the way through. And now make sure it's in that hole. And you're going to pull that little spring into that little groove right there. So just like that. Okay, make sure the float goes up and down. Okay, so these had some D needle seats that are 97,000s, but do we know if that's right or not? We have no clue, so we got to look on our paper to give us an idea. A 6504. So what in the world is that? I don't know. Okay, 6504, 110 thousandths. Okay, so the trick kit comes with some 110s too. So the kit also comes with some, so these say they're 0.15 of an inch. So that's a lot bigger than the factory ones. Holding on the seats, O-ring looks bad and the O-ring was missing right there. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these in the trash. Alright, so we got our screws all cleaned. Get our gaskets on there. The little ones go over there. This goes next, and then the big ones. So needle in the seat, just get it started a little bit. Gasket, adjustment nut. I run it down. Oh, they feel completely different with new O-rings and new gaskets in there. But just carefully lift up on it. Don't put too much force. I'm just gonna give it an adjustment like right there. Just gonna lock them in place. Okay, we're putting the accelerator pump back on. It's got a spring. Make sure the diaphragm's in the right direction. We're reusing this one, so it's very important you pay attention to any marks so you can put it back in the right direction. You can see we got some of our gasket left on there. We want to be 100% sure to get it right back where it came off. It's better to put a new one on here because if you got to change this out, you got to take the fuel bowl off. So I'm going to go ahead and take that chance. Okay, just going around, snugging them up until they all feel tight. Make sure the spring's in there and it bounces back. Float, just make sure the spring is on there right. We're gonna put the float back in. Needle in the seat, new gaskets. Okay, initial float adjustment. Oh yeah, sight plugs, new gaskets. Okay, that's why we couldn't find a center squirter, because the old sight plug gaskets were made out of this paper stuff too. So I guess they all went to this metal type. Do this to the other side, I forgot to. Need to go ahead and tighten these down pretty good, get them used to being in their new shape. So it's got these 5/16, so smaller inlets. Probably want to change these out to 3/8, but for right now, we're just going to use these. So these do have to be pretty tight. We'll have to tighten them later. So we got our metering blocks. On this carburetor, we know this is our primary because it has our time vacuum port right here, but some carburetors won't do that, so you might need to get in the habit of marking these somehow. I would just scratch something on the bottom. Okay, so we got our jets here. We got 72 primaries, 76 secondaries. Make sure you do not put these in the wrong place. You're gonna snug these up pretty good. Even though I know I have the primaries in, I'm still gonna check these again. So the primaries have the idle fuel mixture screws. We're just gonna blow them out and make sure they're clean. So I guess you could put some Vaseline on here to keep them from ripping, but we're just gonna push these in. Inspect that, make sure that these don't look like they were run in and damaged. These both look good. Don't push them in, thread them in, so you don't rip that cork gasket. Run them all the way in till they bottom out gently, and then initial setting is 1.5 turns out. Half, 1, 1.5. Do that to the other side. We're gonna put the secondary fuel bowl on first. So that's why you mark the gaskets when you buy the trick kit, because it has a whole bunch. See, I marked primary right there, secondary right there. And it has a whole bunch, and it also is possible that he put the wrong gasket, so we still need to double check everything. Okay, so what I can tell you right off the bat is that the one that has this little hole up there would be okay to use, because we don't use that secondary discharge nozzle. So this one would be used on a fuel bowl that uses a discharge nozzle, so just be careful with that. Okay, so that took like 5 minutes just to find that gasket. Got the secondary fuel bowl ready to go on. There's a little hole right there that where this gets engine vacuum. They do have some little like blowout protection check valves. If I ever blow a power valve, we'll put some of those in, but for right now we're not. Okay, I was actually missing one of these little baffles and it came with one, so that's great. Okay, so I guess there's two types of these fuel bowl gaskets. Just make sure they got the hole right there. We're not using accelerator pump, so we don't need it. Get them pressed down all the way. So we got our fuel bowl screws. Make sure that the gaskets have been removed, and the kit comes with these like nylon or plastic gaskets that work real good. Okay, so we have everything ready to go on at once. Get it on there. Okay, and if it falls apart or something, take it back apart and make sure the gaskets are in there right before you screw it down. Make sure you get them all started in there at first and they're going in with no problems. Be careful and watch for that little gasket to seat into the bowl before you tighten them down, or you'll rip them. Just go around and evenly snug them up. Give them little amounts of torque until they all start tightening up. So we're going to plug the little port off, going to a manifold vacuum. We're not going to use it. So we have an accelerator pump that's going to our discharge nozzle, so we need a gasket that covers that for sure. One like that. Okay, so just remember, we cannot cover up our accelerator pump hole. Get our little baffle in there. Same thing with the fuel bowl gaskets, get them in there. Okay, we gotta lift this up to get it started. Go around them until they snug up and get tight. So on this one, let's just go over this adjustment real quick because it seems like it's way too tight. Get this loose first where you got some clearance in there for sure. And then it's up to you whether you want to put a feeler gauge in there. I think you should just kind of tighten it until you get the play out of it. You don't want to just run this too far where it starts to press your accelerator pump, because you're just going to lose volume that way. It's still going to work, but that way you just kind of get it right when this opens and it pushes down instantly. Just a tiny bit of clearance in there. But of course, when we get this on the car, I mean, we might tighten it up a quarter turn, but that's just the idea where to start with. So we got it all back together, got our quick change spring housing on there. That's great. We are not running a choke on this car. Everything's clean, ready to go. Well, that's it for the video. We got it built. It's ready to go on my car. In part 5, we're going to be looking at an 850 double pumper that I also bought from my Chevelle. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.